So I wanted to follow up from the previous Battletech Mech analysis. We were looking at the Mauler, and it brought up some ideas of redundancy in the tactics. It brought up a couple of ideas with regard to 5, 10, 15, and 20 long-range missile packs. And that kind of pushed out to some other mechs. And I thought this would be a great chance to loop in with the Valkyrie. So certainly Valkyrie analysis, light mech on there, but some considerations with when we're specifically looking at long-range missiles on there. So this idea of a 5 and 10 pack, I kind of put them together over on one side. Then we've got the 15 and 20 pack. I put them over on the other side. So that's kind of the first chart. I guess we're going to break it up into 4 quadrants, put one in each quadrant, say the top quadrants. Lower quadrants, we're going to look at this idea of redundancy, and that's true for any wargaming system. The ability to fire with one weapon means you could miss. The more weapons you have in the similar range bracket, the greater your chances of hitting. The greater your chances of rolling legendary. An example with one of the reasons why I like to play a longbow so much, stock, is, and there's not much armor on those missile pods. I know that. I do, but sometimes when I get caught and I'm really forced to engage incorrectly with the longbow, it messes with me because the tonnage is out there, but the armor is just not. I mean, it's just missiles everywhere, but we have massive redundancy. I've got the 2 LRM-20 packs, the 2 5-packs on the stock. If the dice gods, well, there's no gods in Battletech. I mean, at least when I play Warhammer 40,000, I can look to the Emperor, or I can make the appropriate sacrifices to the dark gods of chaos. Or playing Star Wars, I can invoke the Force. Battletech, you're just kind of like, I don't know, on your own. But if the dice gods did favor me, and I roll legendary, and I connect with all 4 of those, that's beast. That's the terror of also a long-range missile carrier. You connect with all those shots. That's like, oh man, what the heck just happened on there? That's this idea of redundancy. So generally across every weapon's range and across the different spectrums for the missiles, I'd like to build in that redundancy. That's true of any wargaming system, but it's especially important with Battletech, with how things work on there. So the 15 and 20 pack means if you roll legendary, you're soaking a lot of damage. If you roll average, it's still a decent amount of damage. As soon as we move into the 10s and 5 packs, average is okay. Not so average, not that good on there with the spread on the rolls, which is why generally 5 and 10 packs I'm not a big fan of, unless they move to a very, very specific role. And I guess we'll interject with the Thorn a little bit because we're talking light mechs, even though this is a Valkyrie type focus. The Valkyrie is very interesting because we're talking stock. It breaks one of the rules, and it goes against one of the suggestions that I just put with the intro in here. So here we have 1 10 pack, so I have no redundancy, and it's on that quadrant where it's 5 and 10. But it mounts it on a light mech, which I should say with some decent speed, maneuverability, and pretty good ammo. I mean, this is a light mech that's on there. So this takes the 10 pack, which alone doesn't have the Tactica, but mounting it on that mech makes it very, very interesting on there. It makes it a nice light hunter type mech. And if you've ever tried to hunt down pesky light mechs, it can be kind of a problem, a challenge. 2 examples, I think both involving spiders for some weird reason. I was playing a game, and the one spider, this was Inner Sphere versus Inner Sphere, it was kind of harassing and running around. It was just kind of angering me a little bit. And I fired some shots. I hit it. I missed. I put some damage on. I should have blown it up with the shots I put on it. But I'm like, I'm going to chase this thing down. And the whole game, I'm just chasing it down. And I know what I'm doing. I was trying to chase it down with a heavy mech. It's just not going to happen because I don't have the speed to at least match a similar range bracket, meaning at least if I can get in range and lock you in at medium range, I didn't have the speed, or short range for the missiles. I didn't have the speed to keep up, so I'm constantly shooting at long range. I'm constantly shooting with +2 because I'm running. And on top of that, my opponent's just running all over the place. I need 12s to hit, and all my other weapons aren't shooting. I know better, but it just got to me. The second time, tactical mistake on my part, but we got to play it like it is. Clans versus Inner Sphere. I have 2 summoner mechs, Thor and Loki, on there. And one of the things that's interesting with Battletech with the clans is I really feel if you're going clan versus Inner Sphere, you need to kind of almost interject a little bit of role-playing there. You need to kind of interject the clan honor and challenges and duels. That not only makes it a little bit more even, but I just feel like the rules kind of take that into account. Battletech is a unique thing in that not only is it a war game, an awesome war game, there is a big undercurrent of role-playing. You can run both, not just side by side, but together on there. So we were playing, and kind of the clan rules, whatever I shoot at, I'm issuing a challenge. I'm just used to blowing everything up. I usually play Inner Sphere on there. So I've got my summoner shooting a spider, and once I shot that, well, challenge accepted. I don't want to be Desgra and get caught with that. So now I'm trying to chase down this spider. Spider Mech Warrior, of course, he's going to just run the heck out of there on that. He doesn't have clan honor, and now you're pulling off one of my mechs. I kind of got to go for it. I'm running around hoping someone else will shoot at me so I can break the clan rules on there and engage a new target because they showed dishonor. But it was really, really interesting on that. So the Valkyrie, that's the challenge of trying to hunt down roguelite mechs that you shouldn't, but you feel you have to. Valkyrie does it. It has the ability to do that, to keep up, and once you lock in that range bracket, it can more or less match it. And with the 10-pack and the spread on there, light mechs don't want to get hit with that on there. Second, as kind of a really budget, look, if I'm building indirect fire, you kind of go to battle with what you have, not what you want. I would love to go to battle with 2 longbows, 2 archers, 2 to 4 long-range missile carriers, a Warhammer or a Thunderbolt as a blocker, as an interceptor, combined with 2 Demolisher tanks for guard duty. So this way, if someone tries to cross that invisible line and get into my backfield where I have all this missile fire support, they're going to at least pay a heavy, heavy price on there. And then if I'm playing for the lulls, I've got a bunch of locusts, or if I'm playing a little more competitive, locusts are for spotting. If I'm playing a little more competitive, I've got warriors, infantry, and Karnovs, and maybe some goblins with infantry for ground assault on there. That's a list. That's my list. I can scale it down and say, okay, we're playing less battle value, so I'll drop the archers, or I'll drop this. But sometimes you're playing such a small battle value game. I don't want to say skirmish, but limited battle value, where you have to really make choices. But at the same time, Battletech being such a dynamic and fluid game, opportunities do present themselves. Indirect fire is one of them. Might not have a dedicated spotter, but something might get into position. There might be a great part on the gaming table, or if I can get a long-range missile unit in there and just lay down some indirect fire, it's a lower 10-pack. It doesn't have the redundancy, but that is a tactical option at minimal battle value on a light mech. It starts to open that up on there. Deep insertion, rear armor hunting. Of course, there's this idea, this is usually reserved for medium mechs. Hunchback's a great example of this. You march in your heavy or your assault with the Hunchback in tandem. Your heavy or assault engages your opponent. Now you're locked face-to-face in Battletech. When you are squaring off in Battletech and you've committed to now where your medium laser or shorter classed weapons can now hit, you really can't turn away. If I run away, my opponent is going to be able to move faster than me. I can start backpedaling, sure, but I need to keep the bulk of my weapons facing that primary target. At this point, the Hunchback can break off and now get rear armor or side armor of my opponent. And you don't want to eat an autocannon 20, but any type of non-long range medium mech, this bodyguard duty, it works. It works really, really well on that. Deep insertion is where, of course, your opponent's going to kind of counter that stuff. No one lets you get behind for free, in theory. Deep insertion means you're taking backbiters, you're taking backstabbers, and you're working them into your opponent's deployment zone. If we have the gaming table or the hex map table, where you set up where your opponent sets up, deployment zone, the middle area, the mid-band, the midfield. When someone has closed into the midfield, if you have the Valkyrie, if you have warriors, if you have other long-range or long-range missile or other autocannon stuff that can run up the flanks, work up the flanks, maybe pop off a couple of long-range shots in the lulls, but get into your opponent's deployment zone, now you've got them facing both ways. And because it's in your opponent's deployment zone, they're not going to want to go back. They really can't go back once they commit to the midfield, especially if you're pushing your units up to the midfield on there. So that rear armor backstabbing from an insertion unit is much, much harder to deal with. It's much more annoying. Valkyrie does that. So this is an example. In my mind, the Valkyrie is a great light mech. I mean, certainly we have all of our favorite mechs that we like to play. Some of them are really good, really proficient. Others are kind of like, okay, that's your favorite mech. I get it. There's some history there. It's the first one you added to your collection. You always have to play it. I mean, we all have our own narrative in our head. But in Battletech, I believe that given the battle value resources, there are certain mechs, there are certain machines that just, they shine in a variety of roles. The Catapult is another example, Catapult mech, where if you don't have a personal preference and you're playing across a bunch of missions where you don't really know what mission you're going to play or what you're going to face, or you're really not that sure what to add to your collection, there's a whole stable of mechs, and the Valkyrie is one of them, where you can't go wrong with this type of mech on there. So kind of a side note from the Mauler type mech, if you guys have a mech that we should analyze, in the comments, or you can always follow the link to my blog and kind of Wargamer Fritz on there. You can contact me, Battletech, through there. What should we look at? What machines, what tools, what tech, from this idea of how do we utilize them? What are they good for? And the weaknesses, how do we exploit them? Or how do we keep our opponent busy so in theory they can't exploit those weaknesses?